Hey guys, so today is Saturday, um, and I am going to do a couple of jobs on the Corsa. One which I'll be happy to kind of show you guys, which is the camshaft changing. So now I've done a little bit of research, a little bit of digging, a little bit more kind of in depth what I need to do to remove them and swap them out. It's not actually as bad as I thought it was going to be. So once everything's locked down, there is a bolt to loosen to undo. That will hold the camshafts onto the sprocket, and I can just remove the camshaft like that without having to take half the engine apart, which is great. So basically what I do have to remove is the camshaft actuators, which as I understand it, basically allows kind of like how much oil and that to be fed into it. And also once they're removed, I've got to lock it all down into the right place so it doesn't go out of time, which should be fairly easy. There's a bar that goes on the end of the camshaft, which can only go in one way, but just because of the way that the slots line up that you slot the bar into to keep them in place, and also the kind of timing mechanisms that you need to lock into place as well, which I now have the right tool to do it, which I will show you. And I'll show you the difference in the tool that I already had, which so this is the tool I had, okay, which has most of the things in, apart from the bars slightly different, and also this is for a different kind of lock. So I think that is more for a fixed timing, whereas this one, as you can see, has a bit more in it. Price wise was about the same, so yeah, so to basically that flat bar is going to go in the end of the camshafts to hold them into place. This piece here is going to go over the timing sprockets to hold all that into place to be timed in. And this tool here basically locks the sprockets kind of down and in place while you undo the nut or undo the bolts. This bar here, that basically is your crankshaft locking tool, and then you have a couple of other pins for the tensioners and things like that as well to hold them in place. But all I need to worry about today is basically this tool here. Is the crankshaft locking tool, which you'll have to get underneath the car and undo the right bolt for that. It looks like a sump plug, and then basically you take that plug out, you slide that in when the crankshaft's in the right place, and that will basically hold the crankshaft in place, stop any play in that, which should hold pretty much everything else in place. But then you have these to lock the timing in, when you loosen the bolts, that will keep the timing in position. And also the bars will keep the camshafts in the right position as well. So when you then remove the camshafts, they will go in a certain way, that the lobes will face a certain way, and then you line it up with that bar, you lock them in, and then you put the bolts back in, and hey presto. Yes, there is a sequence as well for so basically the I'm hopeless with all the naming everything. I'll never retain it. But basically, the camshaft kind of like horseshoe shaped kind of locking rings that go and hold the camshaft in to the engine block. Basically, you have to undo those in a certain way. There is a sequence for it. You start from the inside, work your way out, and then you start from the outside, work your way in. So when you're undoing inside out in a sequence where you will kind of go like this one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that. Okay, so then you get an even kind of release. Once it's gone so far and there's no pressure on it, basically then you can just take them out. But then when you put them in, I would basically just put them in, hand tighten them all down, and then when you have to use the tool then to tighten them up, is then you follow the other sequence. If you go the outside in and there is a pattern that they suggest following, but I guess it doesn't really. I guess the numbering doesn't really matter as regards. It's more of the pattern that you do it. So if you don't get the numbering right and you don't do that bolt to that bolt, but you've got the pattern right, then that's not too much of an issue. So that shouldn't cause any issues down the line anyway, and it should be safe. So that's my job. So I've got to fix the underglow, because on the underglow the wires got snagged somewhere. It was only a temporary kind of repair, so it wasn't really a tidy job. I just kind of did it quickly, but then has caused a problem where I've kind of damaged the wire that I've installed again, because I just need to reroute it, and probably there was a bit too much slack and everything else like that, which is fine. It wasn't the tidiest job in the world. It was just quick. It did for what I needed it to do, but then it's got damaged in between time, and I need to sort it out a little bit more properly. But in due course, what I'll probably do is I will probably buy a whole new set of underglow lights. Then I will install it pretty much the same way I've probably installed it now. Depending on which set I get, I might get more lights, because I might light up the back. It might look alright from the back, as long as you don't like sort of hide it kind of behind the bumper kind of thing, so it just shines on the back end. But I think with that, I mean, it looks okay as it is, but I think with that I can keep the lights at the front the way I want it to and shine the engine bay up, and then I can have a little bit light at the back, because you get like a 4-piece or a 6-piece. What do you do with the extra 2 lights? I'll figure that out. So basically, yeah, that's kind of how that will run. And then I'll run the cables up through the bumper to go into the car that way. Pretty much similar route as how you install a dash cam. I might need to make an additional hole into the bumper just where the number plate light sits, just to put the wire through that way, which should be fine. Shouldn't cause any issues. If I was that worried, I might just try and see if I can find a rubber bung or something like that, small enough to put the cable through to give it a little bit of a seal. But I think from where the hole would be, it'd be inside the bumper, like at the back, where the compartment for the number plate light goes, and then run a cable in through there, up, and then follow the same route back to the front. I think that way no cables be kind of like on the front, like, and there shouldn't be any kind of way of that snagging. I mean, there's always a chance that something can get snagged, but I think really, because the car's not like, I haven't dropped the car that low, but then still, if you're going over like a high bump or something like that, and there are some pretty nasty speed bumps, so it is possible for that to get snagged. Also uneven ground and everything else like that. I mean, we do not have the there's fantastic roads in this country. 9 times out of 10, I do like kind of wonder. Well, I feel like everybody else, where's the bloody money going? You know, taxed the absolute hell out of us, and where's it going? I'm not seeing it, you know. And when I do want to do it, it's not like in a, it's not in an even sense. So you do one part, and then, oh well, you get potholes in another part. Oh yeah, no. By the time you've then spent like however many like months, years deliberating about what work's going to go and fix those, by the time you got around to doing that and you fix those, oh look, the others have opened up again, because they're not built to last, are they? So yeah, that's my little whinge there. But yeah, I've decided that's probably what I'll do in the future. So I'm just gonna like do a repair today. So then it's only one side that went out. The other side's fine. So I'm just gonna do a little repair today. Get that done. Shouldn't take too long. And then I'm gonna jump onto the camshaft, and then I'll kind of show you kind of like how, I mean, when it's all locked down, what you need to do, which bolt you need to do, or need to undo, to then remove the cams. They are going to be, it's going to be quite hard, because the they're talked up to like £15 square foot. So that is, yeah, that's quite a bit. Not too much. But then, you know, once you do it the other way, one of the things that learned is you talk it up to that spec, and then you 15 degrees, so basically like quarter of a turn, which if you go from that, quarter of a turn would be like that. Okay, so think of the whole circle, what a quarter of that would be where you want to get, not half a turn. 16 degrees isn't quite a quarter, it's sort of somewhere, it's like a quarter of a quarter. Somewhere like that. So basically there'll be a point where you'll just be like, you just feel it, and it'll just be in place. You'll feel it's in place. So that's the job for that. That's the doing it up process. So I've got to get all that apart. It didn't really take that long to get it apart last time, but it was just later in the day. So I'm not expecting it to be that late today, and then I can get it done. The weather's fair, not due any rain today, so yeah, hopefully that'll be all good. Sorry about the close-up shots of the face there, because I wasn't really concentrating on the camera. I was just deliberating and thinking about the job that I needed to do. So yeah, and then after that, I want to get this job done, get it out of the way, and then focus on getting all my stuff together, getting that packed up for next week, getting everything ready to go into storage that I don't need, getting all the washing I need done, and then just basically having what I need with me in the car, and then everything else be away. Still where I can have access to it, so I've just got planned what I need to do in regards to how I organise the storage unit, just so I can literally nip in and stuff I need at the front and stuff I'm not really going to use that much towards the back, and then go from there. And then basically I've got a nice little spot that is picked out for me, and I've got permission to be on the land, so that's pretty easy. Then basically it's still demographically it's not that far from work, so it's good, so I can get to work and back on time, and pretty much keep the same. I can still keep my phone charged up and everything else fully. The battery's pretty good on it when you're not using it. So basically, you know, I probably won't be using it so much, but it means that number one, I'll have a fair bit more money that I don't have to really worry about each week, so I can keep the car tops out, keep the insurance paid, tax paid, all that kind of stuff for that. Also, it means I can kind of pay some of the other debts I've got off a little bit easier, and hopefully now we're going into the summer, it's going to be lovely and warm, and also as well, hopefully my presence will deter from where I'm staying, kind of like other people from kind of just showing up doing all kinds of shenanigans. So a little bit of stuff there to happen. So yeah, good. So that is me organised. that's the plan, and yeah, hopefully this will just sort of go in well, and I can be ready and steady and like go. So, all right, guys, I'll leave it there, and I'll let you know how it all gets on. Yeah, all groovy. See you in a bit. Okay, guys, so I am onto the cams now. This locks this end of the cams in. It just slides into these slots. It will only go in one way, because if they were revolutionised another 180 degrees, this would not fit in because it would be below the head. So this is the other tool that locks them into place. So that's all locked in. So that shouldn't go anywhere or become untimed. And also down under here, there is my crank locking pin. So that's locked the crank in place. And yeah, it's not that. That is that plug up there. I believe that's for the timing of the crankshaft. So that's the one that you take out. Okay. Not really very many videos on this, so I'm trying to give you as much detail as possible. Now, inside here, let me show you that. This is what I've got to undo. That's a 24mm socket on that. So what I've got to do is I've got to get a wrench on here, get a socket on there, and then I've got to undo that bolt that will come through, which when you undo that, this will become loose. But once I've undone that, I think I'm pretty safe to then start undoing these bolts. Now, in my earlier explanation, what I said is you've got to start from the inside, so you've got to start from here. So you've got to like maybe undo that, undo that, undo that, undo that, undo that, and so on and so forth. Kind of zigzag it across, quarter of a turn each time, until it becomes really loose, and then you can just take it out. And that's kind of where we've got to at the moment, and then that should be fairly straightforward to take them out, and then I'll slip the new ones in, which have all been cleaned up and are all set to go. And you can see what I mean about the lobes. So this one is facing this way, and that one is facing that way. So that, yeah, that's pretty much it. So basically, undo that. That'll release the camshaft from the sprocket, and then I should be able to just take the whole thing out without too much of an effort or hassle. And then we'll see. We'll go from there. So at this point, yeah, I think I just crack on, get that done, and like hopefully there won't be any hidden surprises. I don't think there will be. I think it should be pretty straightforward from here. But once I've kind of got that done, I'll show you a shot of the new cams in. Obviously, I've got to oil them up and everything else like that. Put the spark back in. Put it all back together, but before it goes out, I'll just show you what the new ones are like. They don't really look any different than these ones, to be honest with you. Obviously they have been reground, but these look in pretty good condition. You can kind of see things like this, it's little bits of wear here, but actually they were in pretty good condition. Put new ones in, and then we'll see what difference that makes. Hopefully a lot more than what it is at the moment. These are the actuators as well, so you have to take them off. They just fit on here, so I've got that one to take off for that side. But yeah, just should be pretty straightforward. All right, back in a bit. Right, okay, so I probably didn't get as much footage as I wanted to, so it's now kind of Saturday night. It's quite dark outside, so I can't really show you much anyway. I successfully changed the cams over. There is a noticeable difference. You can certainly hear the. It sounds a lot more kind of like brum 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 brum, and it has a bit more of an aggression about it. So that's a bonus. So how did I manage to do it effectively? I should have shown you a little bit more when it came to taking the cams out. So basically, right, where the camshaft sits, you've got the sprocket, and in that sprocket, you've got the bolt that has the oil feed to the cams, right? And you have to take that completely all the way out. You then have to remove the timing thing. I don't know quite what the name is, but it's the bit that you lock down when it comes down to keeping the timing of the engine. So you have to take a note. Like when you put the locking tool in, you put the locking tool on, and you've got to make a note as to how it all sits and to where the bits in the locking tool actually fit in, because there is a couple of ways it could fit. So actually you need to know where that fits before you take it apart, so it goes back that same way, because you've got to take that bit apart. And then what you have to do is, once you've taken that little plate off that basically goes through the timing, you have to take the cam timing sensors out anyway. So you've got to remove those, because they will get in the way. So that's just basically, they're all basically the same size bolts. I think it's an E10 to basically just put it in and taking them out. Basically, yeah, so remove the sensor. Then after you've removed the plate and the sensor, you can then kind of like jiggle forward the sprocket. There's enough room there to then just move it forward to then remove the cam. It's a little bit tricky, but it's doable. Then you don't have to mess about with splitting the chain or anything else like that. It can all kind of be set what it is. Now, I wouldn't try and do both at the same time, unless you really do want to split the chain and then re-time it all and everything else and all that kind of stuff. Simple fact is, if you try and do both, you are likely to then kind of change like where the sprocket sits, and that could change the timing of the timing of the cams. So yes, don't do that. Just do one at a time. Once I figured out the first one, the second one was easy. The second one was done in like sort of like half an hour, 45 minutes. Just taking it apart. It's more to take it apart than you think. Put it back together as well, and the way that you have to put it back together. But yeah, it's all done. And yeah, I think it's actually it's a lot better. It is a bit more power, it's more aggression. It's more at the top end. There's like, you can feel where there's a pickup, but it doesn't mind high revs. It can take the high revs. So actually, what it's done is it's changed the gear ratio. So basically, you can get a lot more out of it in the lower gears before you have to change up. So actually, I don't know what that's going to be like, especially in fuel and that, but we'll see what that's doing. But yeah, it was a success. It wasn't as bad actually as I thought. I think some things you kind of overthink, but there were some bits I was like, can you actually do that without taking it all apart, about having a split chain and that? Because my head was going into that mode, and I was like, and then somebody said, yes, you can do it without taking the engine all apart. I was like, oh, okay. And I got a little bit frustrated in the process, because I was thinking, oh no, if I've undone the bolt, the cam should just slide away from it and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't realise kind of like you have to take bits of it apart, because I'd already locked it down, a timing thing down. So what I did is I locked it in place, then realised actually I've got to remove that, and I've got to remove that. So I've got to remove the bolt, and I've got to remove the timing thing on there, and then I was like, okay, so I had to then take that off, put it back, take it apart, put a new one in. Where before I put the new one in, I just basically splashed some engine oil over it, some fresh engine oil over it. I just make sure it was all nice and lubricated. Put it back in. Got it all positioned correctly. Locked it all back down. And yeah, it was alright. No, I didn't use a torque wrench, and I'm pretty sure like it's tight enough. Because there is a point where you can feel it, where it's just like, yeah, that's kind of like how it would have felt going the opposite way. So that's kind of how it feels going the other way. You have to give it that little extra, because it is flipping tight. Can't remember I think it's 45 square foot pounds on that one, but yeah. It's tight enough. You need. So what do you need? You need a 10mm E10 for nuts and bolts for the top, for the top bolts. Also, you need a long 16 bit for the spark plug. And then you need a long screwdriver as well. So you need to have a long screwdriver handy to be able to put into the way the spark plug you've just taken out goes, to then get the cams positioned right. There is a guide as well for that. But what I ended up doing, because when you're on your own, you've got no one to kind of like have a look at the top, and unless you're taking the engine out, it's quite difficult because you've got to get underneath, you've got to get to the pulley, and then you've got to like turn the crank. Excuse me, it's a long day. You've got to get the crank turned, then that'll bring the piston into the right position. And to make sure it was going to be in the right position, what I did is I put the cam locking tool over the timing washers or actuators or whatever they're called, and then basically I had to keep turning it a little bit until that had dropped into place in the right place, and then lock that all down. Then I locked the crankshaft into place, and that, I tell you what, that was really hard to undo that plug to get the locking pin in. That was tight. I don't think I've done it up so tight. I've done it up tight enough, but I don't think it was that tight. But that was flipping tight. But that's all done now. I'll just have a little check, see if there's any oil leaks in that in the morning. But I think I'm pretty confident it'll be alright. I did snap 2 bolts on the head, flipping one, taking it off, and it just snapped. But I was able to retrieve the bit that snapped out, so that was alright. And the other bit snaps on the way in, and I don't know kind of like where that snaps, but I'm hoping it's the same. So if I have to change that and I'll take that out again, I'm hoping that'll be alright. I think they won't be an issue. Should all be buttoned down tight enough. I certainly don't think it'll be an issue, but I will get those replaced, just because they do. Well, you should. So yeah, I'll get that done. What else do I need to tell you? Ralph, dear me. So yeah, so I got the underglow sorted out. I fixed that, and I've got the cam sorted out. I fixed them in. Basically, so I put it all back together. turn the engine over without the spark, just to coat the, just get oil all the way around. So I did that for a couple of minutes, and then I put it all in, and then started it. The ECU took a little bit of a blip. To it basically started, it fired up, and it was like blip, 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 blip. Stalled it, and then fired it up again. And this time I gave it a few more little revs to help it out. And then once it had sort of sorted itself out, it was like, yeah, it's all right. So obviously I noticed the sound. What I also noticed is I've had this rattle in the engine, and it's been doing my head in because I haven't been able to figure out where it was coming from. I thought it was the intake. Well, I've strapped all that up, but it wasn't that. Turns out it's the cover that goes over the coil pack. So the cover that goes over the coil pack basically is vibrating like you wouldn't believe, and all we hear is that, which is basically what it is. And I was like, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some draft excluder, and I'm just going to buy a little bit of that, and just stick it to the underneath where that engine cover is, and then or coil pack cover is, and then I'm just going to stick it down. Stick it down, and that will give it a bit of a buffer. So then hopefully, yeah, that will stay all good, and it will dampen that noise. And then obviously there's a couple of little tidy up things to do. I need a longer strap for the air intake, the intake filter, just to strap that down. I did keep the old one, but when I pinged it off, it doesn't really want to go back together, which probably, yeah, it just never does. So I've got to get another one of those. I don't really have a long strap. I think I don't. So I will just have to get one from somewhere. And then after that, yeah, that should all be kind of like engine bay sorted out. The only thing then to do, which is the next kind of expense, is to sort out the tuning. Take it down to AC tuning. They need a car for like a day, and they have to do some other bits and pieces. So what they've got to do is they've got to go in, I've got to book it in, get the initial tests done to make sure the ECU can take the map and that they can actually access it and it's not locked and all that kind of stuff. And then if it is locked, I've got to deal with that before they can do what they got to do. I think they might be able to get around it. But then after that as well, then they've got to like do all their testing bits and pieces, what they need to do to make sure that like everything can be done properly. Yeah, because I don't want to blow up at the end of the day. But yeah, it's running all right. I've been out for a little drive and it's running fine. Didn't overheat or anything like that. Yeah, so I think I'm kind of on the right track. So yeah, tuning. Oh, and then the headlights. That's the other big expense I've got to do. But because I'm actually doing what I'm doing with like giving up my house and all that, that'll save up a lot of funds, and I can kind of then get a square again. Then I can pay for a few bits and pieces, and then I can kind of get everything kind of finished. And then probably I might even just be in the car and then just keep on some sofas and that like for a bit, and then get through the summer, and then by the winter I should be more kind of like able to find somewhere else to rent, and it should be alright. Hopefully be debt free on that as well. So yeah, as far as the car goes, it's all good. Everything else is all good. of all organised. So the transformation is taking shape. Yeah, the tuning, I'll make that a priority for the next bit for the car. I've still got the spoiler. I've put the studs in on the spoiler. I've got a spoiler cap as well to be stuck on when that's ready. That's only a couple £100 for the guy to do that for me. So you know, that might be another useful thing that I get done before I even get the engine tuned. Hopefully the engine it'll just be alright as it is for a minute. The one thing I was worried about is I wouldn't like the cams and it would be horrible. So yeah, that's where it's at. And yeah, I'd like to. I've shown you a little bit more, but I had to crack on with it. And doing this and trying to film and everything else like that is really difficult when you're on your own and you need to go on with it. I do have a tripod, but I don't have the tripod bit to hold the phone, which would have been handy. Just bits and pieces to kind of get together to sort of like make it a little bit easier for me, so I can have a bit more hands free and then show you guys like what's what. But I would say I'm happy with it. I think I'm on the right track, and I think it will go well. It's just timing, money, all that kind of stuff. Back to work Monday, Sunday. I don't know what's going on Sunday. I've got church in the evening, sort of like after 5 o'clock service. What I'm going to do during the day, I might get to a meet. I probably will, but yeah, I just have to get something to shout my fee for that. That'd be good. Awesome. All right, guys. I'll leave that one there. Carry on getting tidied up, and then God, I didn't realise it was that late as well. Probably going to have something to eat and then get to bed. I was going to have a fire tonight, but I don't think that's going to happen. Alright, on that note, I'll see you later. Bye.